Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison. In the spirit of the trees, in the spirit of living nature of which we're a part, with deep gratitude to all the generations before us who have brought us to the present moment, I want to welcome you to this session of Humanity Rising. Today, we want to begin our program by a contemplation of a pilgrimage that we are organizing through Ubiquity University and various partners for this August to the sacred site in Chartres. Every year for 16 years now, we have made pilgrimage to Chartres. Over the last couple years in 2020 and 2021, we were not able to do that because of the pandemic. But this year, we felt courageous enough and the yearning to return to a sacred site that for over 3,500 years, since the early Druids and the early Celts, has been recognized as one of the most potent sacred sites in all the world, certainly in Europe, for the sacred feminine, for the divine feminine. The telluric energies there were recognized as particularly potent. And in fact, the Druids and the Celtic peoples for over 1,500 years considered Chartres to be the most energetically powerful site in all of Europe. And every year, they would gather together in sacred ceremony. So we're going to be returning to Chartres this year. And every year we have different faculty that come as our primary faculties. And this year we are contemplating the third of the liberal arts, which is the liberal art of rhetorica. And that's under the aegis of the planet Venus and the goddess Venus. So it's about love. And after 2 years of COVID, we're contemplating the regeneration of love in the world through the pathway of apology and reconciliation and healing. One of our main faculties is going to be V, formerly Eve Ensler, who you all know as the author of the extraordinary play, The Vagina Monologues, which has been performed worldwide and is one of the most translated and performed plays in modern history. And through that play, she opened up a dialogue and a consciousness around the world about the oppression of women, about how women can take control over their lives and their sexuality and their inner power with a potency that transforms their lives and transforms their world. So I want to welcome V for a few minutes as we begin our program this morning. V, welcome to Humanity Rising. Love it that you and Jackie Lewis and Andrew Harvey and a variety of people are going to be coming to Chartres for our August 13 through 19 pilgrimage. And why don't we begin our conversation this morning with a reflection from you on how you understand the regeneration of love at this moment in history, given the challenges that are confronting the human community.
Thank you so much, Jim. And I'm so honored and moved and thrilled to be here with you and with everybody who's in this virtual, wonderful space this morning. Regeneration of love. You know, it's so funny. I was up in Provincetown this weekend speaking. I had a wonderful conversation with two people, a public conversation. And I was thinking about what are we being called to do right now? What are we being called to do in these times? And I think one of the reasons I'm so obsessed about apology and reckoning and people being accountable to their past is that form of honesty, right? That form of accountability, that form of self-reflection, that form of digging deep into yourself to look where you have harmed someone, how you have harmed someone, the specificity and the detail of that harm. And then to really, really look at the impact of that harm on that person feels like an honesty that is a regeneration of love. Because I think authenticity and honesty are the surest ways to regenerate love. Often we are in the midst of people, whether they're governments or states or cultures or families or partners who have done things to us that have wronged us and have wronged our people, have wronged our history, have wronged our ability to move forward. And the lack of accountability, the lack of people admitting, the lack of people taking responsibility for that almost keeps us stuck, all of us, in this place of kind of spinning in unprocessed, unexamined, and unreleased karma. And so I think for me, one very great way and one possible way, something we have control over, is developing the mechanisms and the processes and the method for apology. And I don't take apology lightly. I think it's a very profound act. It requires deep reflection. It requires um, honesty. It requires facing demons. It requires going in a way that you have to kind of bypass or go through all these systems that have been set up to deny what you've done or not touch what you've done. And I can only say that I really learned all this when I wrote the apology, which was my father's apology to me. I wrote in his voice with his words, his imagined words. I wrote the apology I needed to hear, that I had never received in all the years that I had been with my father, and then all the years after my father had died, for being a very violent sexual abuser, being a violent batterer, being someone who had um, devastated me in many ways and never taken responsibility for that. And so I was constantly living, waiting on some existential, mystical, and yet psychological level for that day when that apology would come. And that waiting was taking lots of energy from my life. And it was keeping me involved in a relationship with my father, alive or dead, that was keeping me faced in the wrong direction, shall we say.
Mm.
I needed to release that so I could open my life to a different kind of energy. So I'm very excited. I'm very excited to be at Chartres, to be part of this whole amazing journey we're about to embark on. And I hope everyone will come be with us at this glorious place. But I'm very excited to really go through this apology process and then work with Jackie to look at the reconciliation that comes after that apology. Because I do think the thing that is being called upon all of us now, whether it is reckoning with the history of America and what has been done over and over to indigenous people to rob them of their lands, their culture, their ways, their wisdom, which we desperately need in order to survive um, where we are right now, whether it's amends and apologies and reckoning that need to happen in our history of 400 years of slavery and Jim Crow and oppression of Black people in this country, whether it's sexism and misogyny, whether it's trans rights, whether it's, we can, in every direction, reckonings. And then, of course, there is the great reckoning we need to make with our earth, our mother, who we have not seen, who we have violated, who we have taken for granted, who we have extracted and not acknowledged and not honored in so many different ways. So I'm looking forward to an intensive process where we can be in a trusting group to let ourselves really go deeply into what is an apology and how is that liberating to everyone, to the person making it, to the person receiving it, and to those who are witnessing it.
Yeah, you know, what's coming to me, V, is when you add apology, reconciliation, and healing into the notion of love, you're really transforming love into a pilgrimage. It's not some sentimental good feeling that you have about another person. It's a deep encounter in the reality of which darkness surfaces, suffering surfaces, yearning surfaces. And as you know, the goddess Aphrodite or the Black Madonna or the sacred feminine indicate, when that begins to come into play, you can be shredded by love, and you can be completely reworked by love. And so that's your notion of apology, in some ways, is where the pilgrimage begins. Because it's not until, as you say, we're willing to be that honest with ourselves and with the other, and apologize in a sincere way, that we can really begin the process of reconciliation and healing.
Yes, and also understand that apology is a very deep thing. It isn't, I'm sorry if I hurt you, or I'm sorry if you feel bad. It's really an excavation. It's really an exploration of who we were. How did we become a person who was capable of doing what went into us? What were the ingredients that made us somebody capable of doing that? And what is the alchemy that gets us to transform that? You know, and I think sometimes the alchemy is found literally inside the apology, you know.
Yes, it ignites the alchemical process.
Yeah.
Because without an apology, you really can't have forgiveness. And without an apology, you can't have wholeness, because you keep the world divided. And that was so powerful for me reading your book on apology, is that even though your father had been long dead, you weren't complete, you weren't whole with him until you began to channel from the other side an apology that in some way you knew he wanted to give to you before he died, but for whatever sets of reasons could not. And out of that experience, you became more whole, because you ignited that alchemical process in your own psyche and soul.
Exactly. And I think it also just really reminded me how deeply we carry our perpetrators inside us. Their fingerprints are long gone, but they are on us. They are in us. They are about us. And I think when we go through these processes, we actually can extricate them. We can actually like come to understand them in ways that allow us to release them and to be free. And I think that is the whole function. I think, you know, what is, how do we come to love? We come to be free, right? Freedom is so connected to our ability to love.
Well, thank you for joining us. I know you only have a few minutes, V, but we're looking forward to you joining us in Chartres. And I want to welcome all of you listening to this today to go on the Ubiquity website. Right on our homepage is a banner about the pilgrimage that we're going to be making to Chartres, August 13 to 19. And we're going to be for 7 days in an initiatory process, trying to fathom through the portal of apology and reconciliation and healing, how can we regenerate love in our lives, love in our relationships, and love in the world. So thank you, V.
Thank
We'll
you.
see you in
Thank you,
Chartres.
everybody. Have a wonderful session this morning. Bye.
Bye-bye.